Thank you for joining us for our weekly Cannabis Connection webinar series. I am your host, Jamie Cooper, the founder of Cannabis Connection. I am joined by our compliance founding member. We have Jenny Germano and Ali Piscatelli of ICS Consulting. And today we are going to talk seed to sale tracking with a goal of helping you understand Metrc, Michigan's state seed to sale tracking software. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us. We're really happy to be here and excited.
Always happy to have you. Jenny I don't know if anybody who's joining us today has been to any of our boot camps, but Jenny has spoken at a couple of our boot camps so far, and she is such a pleasure. I always love when you make trips to Michigan and I get the opportunity to hang out with you.
I love my trips to Michigan, and I'm really hoping I get to have more trips to Michigan. So
I hope you do too, because we would love to see you around here a little bit more. Okay, well, Jenny and Ali, tell us a little bit about yourself and ICS Consulting. You are based in Colorado.
Yes, so I'm based in Denver, Colorado, and basically how this whole thing started is I started off as an employee, like most people do, and I got into industry in Colorado back in 2009 when we were medical, and I basically worked at several medical marijuana dispensaries where I pretty much learned the ins and outs of regulations, how to run a store, grow facilities, and so forth. And then in 2014, I got the pleasure of opening one of the first retail adult use dispensaries. And that's when I basically started learning Metrc, was in 2013. So I have about, almost a decade of experience. And I also started my consulting business in 2014. Ali, she has 5 years or more in the industry.
Yeah.
Ladies, really quick, is there something blocking the microphone by chance?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
That's better. I hear you better all of a sudden. Okay. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah.
So I think we really have similar background of, in Colorado, we really had to trial and error and learn a lot of these things ourselves. So I think we're just really excited to share with you guys what we've already learned through our experiences. So.
Right, and that's exactly what Michigan needs right now. I think a lot of the Cannabis Connection audience just truly needs more information about what this means. How does seed to sale tracking work? I mean, this is all new to us. As you ladies probably know, we've had a medical program since 2008, but we didn't have any commercial industry to that. And now we are doing that, and it's like going into this blind. And I'm sure that's how you guys felt, several years ago when Colorado was really moving forward.
Yeah, because I remember in 2013, people were literally freaking out because you have to remember we weren't doing any tracking, and then all of a sudden when we became adult use, we had to track all of our inventory through a statewide program, which is Metrc. And we were really the experiment in Colorado, and all of us employees, we laid the groundwork for what you guys are now getting in Michigan. You're so lucky with the system that you're getting now, and you didn't have the system that we started with, because they've made so many improvements. With Metrc, we used to have to manually input data all the time, and now you have API or CSV, which you'll learn in our presentation. So I'm really excited for everyone in Michigan to get on their seed to sale tracking program.
Yeah, well, go ahead if you want to take control of the slideshow.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to share my screen.
Ali Jenny always has great presentations, by the way.
Okay, now sorry. Where is it? I'm using a new slide presentation. I apologize. Here we go.
That's okay.
Do you see it really well?
I can see it great.
Okay. Perfect. So basically, my name is Jenny Germano, and this is Ali Piscatelli. And we are going to just be taking you through a presentation on understanding Metrc and seed to sale tracking as it pertains to Michigan.
Okay, so first we're just going to start with a little bit of background on Metrc and try to get you to understand how the regulations that Michigan's putting forward is applicable in the metric system. That's really what we're trying to cover today. So what is it, why do we use it, and how do we use it? I do want to say before I start that I can't actually sign into anybody's metric system without breaking a ton of laws. So I have a lot of screenshots, but that's really the best I can do. There's no sandbox available for people like me who do metric trading for us. Nope. I'm sorry. Okay, so Metrc is a seed to sale inventory tracking tool. And saying seed might be misleading. I think a lot of growers grow from clone these days. If you were going to grow everything from seed, it would take a very long time. So one other way to think about it is Metrc is a closed loop system. Once you guys get these licenses and start using Metrc, you're not going to be able to pull flower from your best friend's garden or clothes from your best friend's garden or apples from your friend's house or anything like that. Everything needs to be created from what already exists in your system. For example, even clones would be cut from existing veg plants. So it keeps inventory cannot be created out of thin air. And I wanted to let you know that everywhere in the law it uses these three words: safety, security, and integrity. So whenever you feel like compliance is weighing down on you, remember that they're really doing this to try to protect you and the integrity of the industry. So Metrc is a web-based tool, which means that it's accessible from anywhere, meaning you can work from home on your Metrc stuff if you wanted to, which I did a lot. When you start to manage a store, you'll realize the days go by really fast. There isn't much time to do the actual work you need to do. The next thing is that it's trackable. Everyone uses their own unique login, and everything you do in there is time-stamped. This makes it really easy to go back and review things that you or your employees have done in Metrc, but it also means that everything you do is visible. So you want to be making sure you use your own login so that someone doesn't make an error under your name or something like that. Another thing with visible is the department is going to be able to sign in and look at your Metrc system. This will be a way for them to audit you without coming on site. So you want to make sure what you're doing is accurate. The last thing that it being web-based allows you to do is have application program interface, API, and the most common ones in this industry are going to be your point of sale systems in your stores. There are a lot of API programs out there that have to do with Metrc now, and I will get a little bit more into that later. So how is this all done in Metrc? How are they even going to track every clone you make, every plant, every edible you make, anything like that? And that's all done through radio frequency identification. I know you guys are only medical, but I wanted to show you, this is a plant tag here. And then this is a package tag, and package tags would have your final product on it that you're going to transfer or sell. And these would also be yellow and say medical on it. But everything comes with a unique 16-digit or 24-digit number down here, and everything will have your unique license number on it. So everything is traceable back. The division will also use this to track any issues or recalls. So say that someone fails a pesticide test some way down the road, they can actually put individual package tags on hold, and they'll track everything from this number and that batch. They're unique, non-transferable, and non-reusable. They do cost money, so you do want to make sure that you're using them efficiently and you know what you're doing. You also want to make sure that you always have a supply on site. You can't really do much without these tags.
Metric and accuracy important? Well, first of all, we have a thing called diversion. And so this is one of the reasons why Metric is really important, is it is going to uncover any kind of diversion or theft. It's going to cover your inventory control. Obviously, when you're tracking seed to sale, you're tracking your complete inventory, and it gives you more of an inventory control. Money loss. So what am I, as an owner, what am I losing as far as money when it comes to my inventory? And then we have processing loss that we like to call it. And processing loss is basically, am I getting moisture loss, which you will find in a dispensary, serving down, you're opening jars all day. You have scale variance. So let's say I've weighed at the cultivation facility, and then it comes to my provisioning center. I'm going to have two different scales, and there could be a little bit of a slight scale variance. And then we have floor bud. I know it's sad when nobody wants their bud falling on the floor, but a lot of times when you're weighing boutique style, things do fall on the floor or the counter. And then also good data in and good data out. This is the number one thing in any software. You want to input the data. You put bad data, you're going to get bad data out. So the reason we love good data in and good data out is, one, you're tracking sale. Two, you are able to audit your data. In Metrc, there's all kinds of reports that you can generate in Metrc to tell you what's going on. And now you're in compliance because now you're doing record keeping. So good data in and out is able to do all these things for your facility. One of the things also why accuracy is important in Metrc, because you can be subject to investigation and fines if you're putting bad data in. And what it does is creates red flags on the back end for basically the state that might be monitoring your system and checking in on the back end of your Metrc account. So notifications of diversion, theft, or loss or criminal activity. So licensees and applicants shall notify the department, state police, and local law enforcement within 24 hours of theft or loss of any marijuana product or criminal activity. This is why Metrc is important, because it's going to help if you have any kind of criminal activity as an owner, and maybe you have employees sneaking stuff out the back door. And a lot of these things, they happen when there's not regulation. So this, now that you're being regulated in a new way, Metrc is going to catch these things. If you use it. Failure to notify or report under the sub-rule 1 of this rule may result in sanctions or fines or both. So they're basically saying, if you don't report it and they find out there's criminal activity, you could also face fines at your facility. So remember, protect yourself and know the risk. Compliance is your best friend in this industry. I can't implore people enough to take compliance really seriously and to take your Metrc really seriously. In Colorado, I would say probably some of the most violations can happen within Metrc because some people don't take it seriously. And then,
okay, so some conduct and expectation when using this system. As I mentioned before, you want to use your login at all times, and this is going to really, really protect the user responsibility. I would hate to have somebody make a mistake under your name. The licensee has a lot of responsibility here too, though. You really don't want to allow any of your employees to start using this system until they're trained and there's proper inventory control procedures in place. The licensee and the user are responsible for what happens in the system. All entries need to be transparent and accurate. Obviously, people are going to make mistakes, and if you do, you want to document them. There are places in Metrc to include notes, but sometimes you just need a little bit more information. I use this Metrc log all the time. It helps me with inspections. If somebody comes in and asks me something that happened 2 years ago with an old employee, there's no way I'm going to know unless I have logged it somewhere. So this is a really important aspect of using the system. So transitioning into Metrc. So this is something that's slightly unclear because I'm not really sure how they're going to tell you what date you're going to get your state operating license. And that just is sort of out of my realm of knowledge right now. But they are giving you 30 calendar days before you get your state license to set up your Metrc system. And this means recording, tagging, and packaging all on-site product. Any product that's not recorded in your system the day you get your operating license will be considered uncompliant and not allowed to be there. All that product must also comply with testing requirements. After 30 days that they give you to set this up, the system must be functional. And they're saying even during the 30 days, you're opening yourself up to, you're subject to investigation. So I just me trying to let you guys know how important that is and to plan for Metrc setup just as you would plan for ordering computers and supplies or anything like that. This is a big part of opening the business. Some terms to know. So a batch is all the plants of the same variety that have been grown, harvested, and processed together. A harvest batch is all the marijuana that has been harvested, and batches cannot exceed 10 pounds. This is important to know for all aspects of seed to sale tracking. An immature plant is not flowering and no taller, no bigger than 8 inches on a container that's bigger than 2 by 2 inches. After it exceeds these limits, it's considered a vegetative plant. And marijuana product refers to all marijuana and marijuana infused products. So anything that has marijuana in it, flower, edibles, tinctures, anything like that. So here's a little visual I made about tracking your plants and flower in Metrc. So these immature plants, these don't receive plant tags yet. And you can have 100 of the same strain in one immature plant batch. So for example, you could have 100 sour diesels in one plant batch. If any of these plants get larger than 8 by 8 inches or need to be up potted into something larger than 2 by 2 inches, you're going to need to change the growth phase in Metrc, and that will change you into the vegetative state. You can keep your plants in this state for as long as you want. Possibly your mother plants live there, the ones that you're creating plantings off of. Possibly some plants never make it past this stage, and you end up destroying them. Hopefully most plants are healthy and move on to the flower stage. So again, you would change the growth phase in Metrc. And remember what I said earlier, this is a visual representation of your grow. So, you move your veg plant from room A to room B. In Metrc, you're going to move it from room A to room B. After your flower is ready to be harvested, you cut down your 20 sour diesels that made it from the original 100. Hopefully it's not that bad example. But, and now you have a harvest batch. And this harvest batch, remember, it can be up to 10 pounds. And during this entire process, you're most likely going to create waste on many different levels. And this waste is really part of that seed to sale tracking, because everything that you do with all of your product needs to be accounted for somewhere. So Jenny's going to talk a little bit about waste, and then I'll show you how to report it in Metrc.
All right. So marijuana product destruction and waste management. So marijuana product that is to be destroyed or is considered waste must be rendered into an unusable and unrecognizable form and recorded in Metrc. My recommendation is, if you're going to destroy or waste anything, always do it on camera, and make sure that you always enter into Metrc. Out here, they get really upset if you do not destroy waste on camera. And I'm going to assume they're probably going to feel the same way since you're using Metrc in Michigan as well. A licensee shall not sell marijuana waste or marijuana products that are to be destroyed, and a licensee shall manage all waste that is hazardous waste, and this is common in a production facility. A licensee shall dispose of marijuana product waste in a secured waste receptacle using one or more of the following: a manned and permitted solid waste landfill, a manned composting facility, and an in-vessel digester. I said, what the hell, who uses digester? But they decided to put that in the regulations. Basically a composter, and in a manner that is in compliance with state and local laws and regulations.
All right, so as I mentioned, waste in Metrc and waste and reporting in Metrc can happen at all phases of growth production. The growth phase might fill up the zone when you harvest. When you have package bags that you make from your harvest bag, some stuff might go into joints. Something could be contaminated. It might fall on the floor, or and also administrative hold. So if there's anything that can put on hold with you guys. In production, there's your byproduct waste, solvent sort of extraction. There's also going to be packaging waste possibly. And in your provisioning centers, you think there isn't much going on there as far as production, but what happens if you get a tincture that's leaking, or someone accidentally opens a joint in the lobby, and then you can't use it anymore, you can't sell it. So waste can really happen anywhere, and it's just really important to know how to identify it and how to track it. So in Metrc, you report waste under a package adjustment, and I've shown you here all the package adjustment options. You read through these, there's not much room for, lack of a better word, but loss. There's no real good reasons here for, I just don't know what happened to something. And that's why it's really important to have checks and balances throughout your inventory control that will really make sure that, for example, at the end of the day, all waste adjustments are made, or all waste is logged at the end of each day. Adding stuff like that to your regular procedures. You do see here, there's a few that Jenny mentioned before: moisture weight change. That might happen even when you're curing product, processing loss or rolling joint. The only one that really allows for any losses is one that says theft, and that screams issues for me. I don't ever advise someone to use that theft unless you literally got robbed. Because if you have internal theft, then you're probably going to need to investigate it and figure out what's going on. You choose this adjustment reason, it's definitely a red flag.
And expect a visit from the state, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. So all these pop up in the drop down under region. Right here is where you would take that package tag I showed you earlier, and you know that you had 5 grams of processing loss on a joint package tag. So type in your package tag number here, put in a negative number because the waste is removing it. And here in Metrc it says optional note. I advise that the note is never optional, even if you are going to write fell on the floor. Sometimes in this industry, there's a lot of turnover. You might have turnover with your Metrc users and administrators, and these notes are how you're going to figure out what happened yesterday, a month ago, a week ago. There's a packages adjustment report. So from a higher perspective, maybe the store manager pulls their report once a month and makes sure that nobody's making any adjustments that that indicate diversion or loss of product. So just to review, you might have wasted any of these sections, but after the harvest batch is trimmed and cured, before it can go anywhere, it must be submitted for testing. It's very important to know, I see people make this error here still. They start packaging up and trying to transport things that have not gotten their test results back for yet. And it's really just a waste of time, or cart before the horse thing.
All right, so testing procedures. So basically, to ensure the safety, security, and integrity, remember those 3 words, they're all over the regulations, and they love these 3 words, and they're super important. The integrity of the operation of marijuana facilities. The safety compliance facility, I will refer to as testing facility, must physically collect samples of marijuana product from the licensed facility to be tested and ensure the security, safety, and proper labeling. The testing facility shall collect a sample size sufficient to complete an all analysis required. Samples cannot be less than 9.1 grams or 0.5% of the total batch size. Harvest batches must be kept separate from other harvest batches and properly labeled while waiting test results. And you cannot transfer or sell any product until all required tests are passed, like what Ali was talking about in the previous slide. Retesting procedures. So a testing facility may test or retest a sample to validate the test results of a failed quality assurance test, except as indicated under sub-rule 2 of this rule. The marijuana facility that provided the sample is always responsible for all costs involved in the retest. A failed test sample must pass 2 separate retests consecutively in order to be eligible to proceed to sale or transfer. If both tests pass, then the batch is out of quarantine and eligible for sale or transfer. If one or both retests fail, then the marijuana product must be destroyed as provided in these rules.
So in Metrc, you're going to submit your test straight through the Metrc system. And this is great for a few things. Your results will be embedded right back into the package. You'll be able to see them there. It's not always easy, but it will always have the history. And it allows you to keep everything in one spot. There are always quick full test results from Metrc. So we've only been doing the plant tags so far, the tags that were associated with plants and that are still associated with the harvest batch. Now we're going to be pulling packages from their harvest batch. And the first one we pull is this testing package. Straight from the harvest batch screen, there's a submit for testing button, and we'll pop up with this screen here. You're creating a new package tag. You have your descriptive item name here. What's nice is it gives you all these options for tests. Okay, so you're sitting in advance for them to test. That could be a lot when you're thinking about how much you're growing, and that will another topic about propagation planning. But right here you can see that, and they'll edit this to be more specific to what you guys are doing now. But you can see you can select different types of tests and which harvest batch it came from. And then this is what this does is the test results that come back get embedded in every package that you make from this harvest batch. So if you make 10 packages and they go to 5 different revision centers, everybody will have access to the same information. One thing to note here is that when you've been saying that you can't sell or transfer anything after you submit it for testing, but the system literally will not let you. The status of the harvest batch will be switched to submitted for testing, and then you won't be able to transport anything, which we'll get to transport here in a second. But so it's important to also make sure that you are planning so that maybe you don't have everything testing at once. Maybe you do because that's how you're selling things. So there's a lot of planning that goes behind testing as well, but required. Okay, so now we've got our test results back. We've reported all of our waste. We have our harvest batch, gotten our test results. Now you're going to make more package tags for buds and shake. Maybe you're sending some shake to production to make edibles, and some bud is going to provision center to be sold. This harvest batch can now be split up as many packages as you need to fulfill your orders, and then everything's ready to be manifested or transported to another licensed facility.
My little truck I made, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that that's your money in that truck, in that product. And you want to make sure you keep track of your money and your product. All right, so transporting rules.
And do you guys have transportation rules in Colorado?
We just recently, yeah. We
We definitely do. We definitely do.
Okay.
So you can transport as an employee of any licensed business. There's also transporter licenses now, separate companies that move product around for people. The rules are very similar to this. Ours are a little bit more expanded, but you guys are only at a few pages. We have over 300 pages of regulation now.
We have like 300 pages like per license out here. So you guys are pretty lucky right now. The secure transporter must take physical custody of the marijuana or money, but legal custody belongs to the transferor or the transferee. A secure transporter is prohibited from selling or purchasing marijuana products. A secure transporter must transport any marijuana product in a locked, secured, sealed container that is not accessible while in transit. That's pretty much the same for us out here. All transactions, including but not limited to current inventory, must be entered into Metrc. These records must be maintained and made available to the department upon request. Just to let everyone know, all your records in your facility you'll have to make it available upon request of the department or your enforcement division out in Michigan. At all times, they can request to see your Metrc, they can request to see your manifest, they can request to see your invoicing, your point of sale. At any time, they can come in your facility and audit you and have an inspection. So all handling of money associated with the purchase of sale of marijuana between facilities must be logged and tracked. You're not just gonna stay out handing over like bags of cash. This is not the Wild Wild West. Everything's gonna be tracked. Also, a secure transporter must carry a copy of the manifest while in transport. All vehicles are subject to inspection by anyone, the division, law enforcement. A secure transporter shall follow the manifest and designated route. You do not want to go off your route because let's just say, hey, I really wanted to go to Andy's and get an ice cream, but that's located on the other side of town. I really want that ice cream, and I'm gonna go get ice cream. The next minute, I'm getting pulled over, and they're inspecting my vehicle, and I have pounds and pounds of marijuana on me, and they're looking at my manifest, going, "Well, you're not on the route. You're gonna get in big doo-doo trouble, let me tell you." The reasonable time frame for the secure transporter to maintain custody of the marijuana is not more than 48 hours, or by permission of the department, on a case-by-case basis. All vehicles used for transport must be registered with the department. So let's just say the vehicle that you had registered with the department isn't working or in the shop, and you're like, hey, I'm just gonna use my wife's Volvo today and drive product around town. You're gonna have to call the department, and you're gonna have to get that vehicle registered. You cannot transfer product in a vehicle that's not registered with the department.
And like Jenny mentioned earlier, everything needs to be accompanied by a Metrc generated manifest. So this is what the manifest screen looks like. And everything that's written in the law is required to be on transport. It gets generated in this screen right here. This is also kept in the history of your Metrc system. You can always go back and look at old manifests. So right here would have your receiving entity's license number. Here's the route that you're taking. So now, of course, there's a road closure or something, that's a little bit different, but definitely stick to the route. This transporter here, this is going to be the driver. So the license number, whoever the driver is, the entity that's driving. The system will also store information about past drivers and cars. So let's say you guys have 2 cars that you always use for transport. You won't have to type it in every time at least. And this is the information right here that you would provide to the department. It'd be really easy to just make a contact list with this information on it. Let's say, for example, you have your date and time, your type of transfer. The 2 biggest types are affiliated and non-affiliated. Affiliated means that you're transferring to a commonly owned license, and unaffiliated would be every other license. Right down here, you can see where it says packages, and you can add as many packages to this manifest as you need to. Let's say someone's buying 10 separate pounds from you. You have 10 different pound packages with different strains on here. The last thing that's a little hard to see, but there's a blue destination button down in the bottom left-hand corner. You can have multiple destinations on your travel route. Just all that information needs to be put into this manifest. What the manifest will do for you is all these packages that currently exist in your facility, once this manifest is accepted by the receiving facility, they'll automatically go out of your system and into theirs. But what does go with it is the history of that package. So it's important to be transparent with your notes. It's important to make sure that you don't do anything incorrectly. Other people will see it if they ever have possession of that package. So you can manifest to, there's a few different licenses you can manifest to your testing facility, to a production facility, or to a provisioning center. And for use of this presentation today, I'm going to use the provisioning center example. I feel like the laws have a lot more about those. So, okay, so this 1 pound of flour is what you just received off that manifest that I brought to you. And you might do 2 things with it. Maybe you want to repackage it. You want to take that package tag and make it into 2 smaller packages because you want Bob to roll joints and you want Lisa to sell the other half pound on the sales floor. Bob rolls those joints and he has adjustments to make now. He has some waste, he has some processing loss, all of which will decrease the quantity of this tag. You want to make those adjustments now in order to not have leftover product on this tag at the end. You sell those joints in your point of sale system. The API that the point of sale system has created sends those sales to Metrc, and your sales are reported back to this package tag. So all this information gets reported to the original tag, and hopefully getting these tags down to a 0 quantity. That's really your goal. The other package, maybe went straight to the floor, and I forget who it was. Maybe it's Lisa now. And out of her point of sale, she makes sales to the customer. These sales go through the API, through the point of sale, and the sales get reported back to the package tag. When you repackaged this original tag into the 2 new ones, this one is no longer active. You brought this to a quantity of 0, and it's no longer in your system. That is okay. The history of these new tags will include which tag it came from. Researching inventory errors does take time, but it's all possible in this system. What I should have mentioned a long time ago is that Metrc is not a point of sale system though. So you can't use it to make sales out of, which is why the stores absolutely need a third-party tracking system, which is your Flow Hub, MJ Freeway. There's a bunch of them, and I'm sure somebody will talk to you guys about all those options. The last thing I really wanted to touch on today, is how important the information is in Metrc is and how useful it really is to you. Just to reiterate, good info in, good info out. And there's a wealth of information in this system for you to help with internal auditing or to even increase business efficiency. For example, for internal auditing, you can pull any current inventory report, so any current veg plant. Maybe you want to audit your veg room today, or you want to audit all the packages you have in the storage of concentrates, or you want to audit everything that's on the sales floor. Oh, maybe that was a good example. Everything that is in your store. You can download and export all of that information and use it as a paper reference. Let's say, for example, you want to use the harvest report to figure out your yield. Let's say you have 100 different strains and your job is to cut that down to the 70 most efficient. You can use all of this information in Metrc to find out that information. It does take some manipulating in Excel, so that might deter some people, but information is there. And there's a few other great options about information being there, is that we do have API options that we can use. from my experience, and I'm sure some people might get upset about what I'm about to say, but from my experience, it is not necessary to have a third-party system in a cultivation, in a grow, or in a production facility. It is extra work. In the store, they are tackled with the project of keeping their physical inventory, their point of sale, and Metrc all matching all the time. And they have to, because you can't make sales out of Metrc. But at the grow, there is no reason to add another place to track your plants, okay? Metrc is all that you need as far as tracking goes. What I do suggest for grows and production labs as far as API options is things that help you with analysis of your data, okay? So instead of exporting your reports every week and playing with Excel for 3 hours to get your answer, there are some programs out there that will just give you the answer. And I think that that's more important from a production side. And I've also had, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, so I'm not going to, but I have done audits on grow facilities that have strictly been screwed up from using a third-party system that says input the data here and then we'll send it into Metrc. I don't know if everything has been refined enough yet, and I would hate to have you take on more work. Metrc works if you use it, I promise.
So we're at the end of our presentation, and we're going to open it up to any Q&A that someone might have, and I just want to get through a couple more slides. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. Allie and I are super excited to help Michigan with Metrc. As I know this presentation could have been overwhelming. I know it had a lot of content and some things might not make sense, but I'm telling you, once you get your Metrc up and running and set up, please go back to Jamie's cannabis section. Go back to our presentation. It will make sense to you once you're in your Metrc. And also, if anyone needs any Metrc help or other compliance needs, Allie is my Metrc expert at ICS Consulting. I can help with SOPs, employee training on the dispensary side. We do a multitude of things. We have 15 years of experience between us in the regulated section of Colorado. So please feel free to reach out to my email or call my cell phone if anyone needs help. And we can work remotely and help as well with your Metrc setups and getting inventory in and all that stuff. And then I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Well, I do have some questions to ask. One of the first things I kind of want to talk about the big elephant in the room, and that elephant is Sweet Leaf. What happened there? And what can businesses do to keep a situation like that from happening, compliance-wise?
Yeah, I think so. For people who don't know about Sweet Leaf, yeah, I'll have Allie jump in on this too, because she just read the most recent article and I'm not 100% up to date. But I'll summarize it as Sweet Leaf had 20 licenses in Denver, and they were looping. And you say, how can you loop? Well, on the recreational side, it's pretty easy to loop because it's treat marijuana like alcohol. So basically, we're not tracking people coming in and purchasing on the adult use side. So I can go down South Broadway, which is a popular strip here in Denver, Colorado, and there's 20 dispensaries up and down this strip. I can go into every single dispensary and buy ounce after ounce after ounce, which is over the legal limit. It's 1 ounce per sales per day. And so basically Sweet Leaf got into trouble because they were looping and people were coming in. I think they found like a couple, like 4 or 5 pounds in customer cars, where they were just going in and purchasing. And I'll let Allie jump in and some more on Sweet Leaf as well.
Oop, Allie, I'm not catching your audio. Sometimes, like when we switch between you, I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, sorry, what about now?
That's better.
Okay, cool. So I think 2 big things happened. I think the employees were not given proper information. I think they were told by their managers what to do and believed their managers. Okay, so I think that was a big risk. I think the other thing that they did was, it is not required recreationally to collect customer information, but you absolutely can. You might lose some customers, but then what you're doing, you already have your point of sale system. Make it part of your procedure that if somebody comes in a second time that day, that bud tender has to look at the purchase history. And if that and you can track in these systems if they did go look at this history. And if they didn't and something goes wrong, then you have a basis to say, here's my SOP. I trained my employee on how to handle limits. They were trained on it. They still made the mistake, and I fired them. That will help you. Another thing is, when choosing a point of sale, it's really important to ask, how can you protect me from overselling? Let them sell that to you. A lot of them have limits, at least, that they can set, your purchase limits daily. But if you're not collecting the information, then how are you going to attach that? But since you guys are medical, you will be putting information into the system. And I think a big thing will be adding to your procedure that if somebody comes more than once a day, that the patient purchase history is looked at.
Right. So Corey just asked for Sweet Leaf, were the provisioning centers all associated? They were all the same license holder, right? There are like 26 of them.
They were. And so I'm sure what happened after they figured out what was going on at the stores is they started to dig into the grows and the production facilities. And I mean, here, if you don't have your badge on, it's $1,000 fine. You can really get put under as a business for not knowing the littlest things. So I think that that's what's really so important, is making sure before you guys open any of your doors is that you have all of the boxes checked.
Yeah. It's get an example out of them, because obviously they're not going to say, oh, go off and run free and open your facilities back up, and then we're going to have the feds come into Colorado and start raiding us. Our state is like, no way, we have to make an example of this facility. They lost the licenses, correct?
Yeah, the last article I read is
26 licenses.
I think 26 licenses gone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. And I think something else that's important to note here is that these bud tenders got arrested and put in jail. And they faced felony charges. And Sweet Leaf took the rap for that, but who's ever to guarantee your company will? So it's very important as an employee, no matter what level you are, employee, license holder, owner, investor, to know what your rights are and how to stay safe. Luckily, these employees, they'll never work in the industry again. They lost their badge, but at least they don't have a felony distribution charge now. But I think that's really what scared everybody, was that this isn't just about Sweet Leaf losing their licenses. These are about employees losing their careers.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys, oh, sorry. Oh, I'm having troubles with the audio again, Jenny. I'm sorry. Something that happens on the audio when you guys switch talking. Sorry, can you hear me now? No, a little. Can you kind of face the computer toward you? Maybe that helps.
I'm not really sure where the speaker is. That could be half of it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay. You know, that's the thing about these live broadcasts. Things like this happen, and we have an audience that's very patient with us. We haven't lost anyone.
Yeah. So basically, what I was saying is that the employees should make sure they educate themselves and understand the rules at every facility that they are an employee at. Don't just say, oh, the facility is going to protect me. No, you protect yourself. That's what this is about. It's not a me against him or anything like that, but know the risk as an employee and make sure that you're educated, you get the training, that you read all the rules, so you understand whether or not that a facility might be asking you to break the rules. Because if you don't know if you're breaking the rules, how are you gonna protect yourself?
Right. And can you, Corey asked, is the patient purchase history a national database, or is it a local API that the group is responsible for?
No, that's something that you'll be responsible for. The only information that any provision center will have is customers that are.
I can't hear you again. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. What about now? Better?
Yep.
I think there's a time lapse actually.
With the internet.
So what was the question one more time?
Is the patient, is that a group API? He says, is the patient purchase history a national database or local API that the group is responsible for?
Only just the local one that you're responsible for. The only people that have access to their purchase history is if they came in and requested it, and anybody who works for your facility and has a login. The state can't even get into your point of sale system. The state is really only going to care about Metrc, but in order to have an accurate metric, you need an accurate point of sale. But no, all that data is on you to keep protected, and nobody else can access that. No.
Okay. Can you, I'm not sure if you're comfortable doing this. Can you name the 3 point of sale systems that you see used the most and seem to be making your clients the happiest?
Okay. You can blame me if you want.
Don't stake us.
That's okay. That's okay. Even if you just name some of them.
Okay. So the top 3 that I see in stores right now are MJ Freeway, BioTrack, and FlowHub.
Okay.
I think FlowHub knows the most about API. So they know how to make it the easiest for you to keep all 3 systems straight. But I've used them all and nothing is perfect.
They all
Right.
have-
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And, here in Michigan, the transition, we are about to hit that transition phase. Tomorrow is a board meeting and it's expected, they're expected to release the first batch of licenses and so we've been waiting for this. And so, any tips that you have for people for that transition that phase?
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1 is organization. I would go.
Oh, I lost you.
Try again. What about now?
Now we're good.
Okay. I think the number 1 thing is organization. So make sure that you know what everything is. Make sure that you know where everything is. Make sure that things are organized by type, by date, by expiration date, all sorts of things. Get super, super organized. Then I would start, honestly, with a paper record of what you have. It's much easier to record everything and then take it to your computer and do the hours of package and plant tag creation than running and create all of your inventory at once in the system. Then I would go back and verify the inventory, audit what you just did to make sure that everything that is in the building is actually in the system now.
Okay. And then what is the best way to use Metrc as a tool to better your business? I mean, it has some bells and whistles, and I think it could just really be an amazing tool to helping these licensees get to being efficient.
So I think it's going to come in 2 ways. So you're going to have your Metrc users, your day-to-day users. Your harvest manager is probably going to be trained on Metrc. Your closing manager at the provision center will be trained on Metrc, but they're not going to know everything. You're going to want someone at every facility that is doing that bird's eye view all the time, pulling all the reports, analyzing the reports, analyzing who's not using the system correctly. Where are we losing too much processing loss? Do we need to change how we roll? I think it's going to be about exporting the data, analyzing the data, and figuring out where you can be more efficient, but really having that oversight, making sure you're continually pulling reports from the system and you're continually doing inventory audits. I think that's really important, not just at a store, but at every license type, to keep up with what you have on site. Not everybody, there's going to be errors in Metrc. There definitely will, and it'd just be about finding.
Right.
Can I hit a point? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So I highly recommend that all owners understand the ins and outs of the entire Metrc system. Here's why. I've seen it so many times. An owner opens up, let's say, a provisioning center or a cultivation facility, and they maybe put 6 months in, and maybe this person's a serialpreneur. That's pretty normal in this industry. There's people do multiple things. A lot of times the owners want to work on the business and not in the business, and the managers are working in the business. Do not turn your facility and your business over to employees. I'm telling you, as an owner, I want to know the system in and out because I'm going to go in and audit the system my employees are doing. If you do not know what the system is doing as an owner, there's no way you're going to catch if your employees are screwing you or diversion or theft. You have to know what the system does as an owner. You have to learn the ins and outs. And then once you know all this information, you can start giving the reins over to a manager. But this way, you can always check and make sure that manager, you're holding that manager, that employee accountable in Metrc. And then don't let every employee in your facility have access to Metrc. It should only be a high-level employee. The less people with hands in Metrc, the less bad data going in.
Having troubles with the audio.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I've worked for owners before who don't understand metric and inventory control, and therefore don't understand how much work I'm doing as a manager. You know, they're throwing other things at you, like, oh, can you edit this advertising? Can you do this? It's like, what is more important here? I just wish I worked for some owners that had a better idea of what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, and then change their expectations of me accordingly. You know, there's only so much you can do, and metric needs to be number one.
Right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for your time today. You have given a lot of great information, and I loved the graphics, the diagrams that you put together. I mean, it really helped me, you know, the person that has never seen inside this. I've even watched the Metrc, like, informational seminars that they had within Michigan. So I'm kind of like blank to it, but it was very easy to understand, and I thank you both for that. I am going to share my screen really quick. Okay. Here we go. A huge thanks to our founding members, Jenny with ICS Consulting. These ladies are a founding member. We have THC 123, Bricks and Mortar Cannabis, Canna MediaWorks, Cola Marketing, National Cannabis Security Services, Vista Green Group, LC Solutions, and Ingrid Marketing. These are all the cream of the crop when it comes to different types of businesses that are servicing those that are starting a business in the cannabis industry in Michigan. Also wanted to tell you about some of the upcoming webinars we have coming up this month. Next week, we are going to be talking with Anthony Sabatella of THC 123 about how to develop a staffing plan for your cannabis business. On the 24th, we're talking about promoting safety and security from cultivation to consumption. And then on the 31st, how to build a memorable brand for your cannabis business. And if you have not done so already, make sure you join Cannabis Connection for your free business account. Gives you access to the online community of business professionals. Also, you'll kind of stay up to date on the networking events that we are launching. We are launching 2 networking. So it's going to be the last Thursday of every month starting this month. This month, we are launching networking events in both Ann Arbor and Detroit. We were hoping to do Lansing, but that's looking like it's going to be August. But the last Thursday of every month at 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, we are going to be hosting a 2-hour networking happy hour in 10 different areas of the state, launching those chapters over the next 3 or 4 months. And so there will be a networking chapter close to you that you can attend a networking event and start connecting with other businesses in the cannabis industry, and those building businesses, those looking for team members, investor potentials, you name it. It's much needed. You know, every time I put together an event, everybody said, oh, we needed this, or why aren't you on the west side state? Why weren't you on the east side state? And so hell, I decided it wouldn't hurt to have just 10 different locations. So that's what we're doing. And I'm very, very excited about it. And then let's see here. We have some last minute questions, it looks like. Okay. Everyone says thank you, and thank you for this incredible, yes, well, and thank you all. Thank you, Denica Consulting and Development. I am definitely familiar with your name, and thank you all for attending our webinar today. Excited to keep these webinars going and continuing to provide information to those building businesses in Michigan. Ladies, you see what's going on. You saw it happen in Colorado. I was there when it happened in Colorado. What do you think's about to happen in Michigan?
The same thing.
Nobody's gonna sleep anymore.
Yeah,
Right?
a lot of sleepless nights and stamina. Jamie knows I love stamina. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
put your stamina hat on and get ready, everyone, because this is the calm before the storm.
You're making history. So
Making
remember
history.
that every day.
Well, and getting into this industry, was it one of the best decisions you ever made?
Best decision of my life. I'm 45 years old. I've had lots of jobs in my lifetime. This is the best experience I've ever had. I'm so passionate. I love what I do. That's why Allie and I teamed up together. We're both passionate about what we do, and we're so excited for Michigan. And make sure you reach out to me if you guys need some help.
Thank you. Well, that wraps up our broadcast. Thank you again to Jenny and Allie of ICS Consulting, our compliance founding member. And don't forget to join us every week for our weekly Cannabis Connection webinar series. So see you all next week. Thank you.